Welcome, everybody. Look who I got on the other screen, Kelly Light. We're going to introduce Kelly in just a second. She's happy to be with you guys. She just got back from England a week or so. How long ago was
Yeah,
that?
it was a week ago.
A week ago. She was in residence in the Lake District in Beatrix Potter's home turf. Oh my gosh, we've just had fun talking about that. Because I've seen photos of her museum and everything, I almost feel like I've been there, but I haven't. I haven't been there, but Kelly has, and she's going to go back too. So that makes it fun. Anyway, guys, can you hear and see us okay? Kelly, would you say a word or two so they can check your audio? We'll get feedback from the
Okay.
group.
Hi, I'm in New Jersey. I'm at my mom's house. Let me know if you can hear me.
If you can hear, type a Y in the live chat. And if you can see us okay, if you can see Kelly, and I'm going to be monitoring this. And if you're having any issues with the audio or the visuals, let us know early on so we don't do a whole program and you guys can't hear a word we're saying. That would be bad. And while we're warming up, assuming you can hear me, let me remind you about we're going to have another critique on August 9th. Just pure logistics. Kelly can't get to all the pieces. She feels bad about it, but we can't cover every piece that's turned in, or we'll be here till 3 in the morning, and you guys know that. So every couple of months or so, we try to have a catch-up session where we look at the pieces, sort of an informal, just between us friends, sort of hang out and without a guest instructor, and we just look at the pieces, we talk about them as quick as we can, make sure everything gets seen. And so if your piece it doesn't get on the queue tonight, we're going to talk 9 or 10 pieces, then just upload it for now. I'll send you the link to the next hangout and the link to the folder. You can upload your work and do it again so that I don't have to go back and just try to remember which ones Kelly talked about, which ones didn't. And that also includes the pieces that we looked at with Melissa Turk. The 2 assignments were real similar. So if you have leftover pieces from Melissa Turk or from Kelly's, I'll send you the link. We'll meet Wednesday night, let's say 7 p.m. I'm going to change the time from 8 to 7 p.m. and I'll send you plenty of emails about this, and we'll just have a catch-up session. Okay, and then on August 23rd, which is another Wednesday night. No. Yeah, it's another Wednesday night, August 23rd. Time still to be determined. I think it's going to be in the morning on the 23rd. We're going to have Krista Nobles, who's the children's publisher at this new press that's interested in children's publishing, along with other kinds of publishing. Page Street Publishing. Kristen, as you know, was the longtime art director for Candlewick Publishing, and now she's been brought over to be the publisher. She's going to talk to us about her brand new list that she's launching this fall for Page Street, and about working with her and what it's like and what she expects from you. And then she's going to look at your work. I don't have an assignment for you from her yet, but I'll try to get that to you. Maybe we'll get it. We'll certainly have it before the 9th. And we'll say if you're early finishers and you want to finish your assignment for Kristen and upload that for our informal 6-hour marathon session. I don't know how long it will be. Hope it's not 6 hours. On August 9th, you can do that as well if you need some early feedback and getting ready for Kristen's critique. So those are the heads up. Let me check the wall to make sure you're hearing us. And then we're going to introduce Kelly. If your screen appears to freeze at some point during the stream and you don't feel like anything's moving, just refresh your screen. That usually is the big fix. So that's good to know about. And Kelly, everybody is hearing us and they're all saying hi to you.
Hello.
And audio is good. And Glenda says the Lake District is beautiful. It's beautiful there. So she must have been there too. So that's
So
fun.
pretty.
So pretty. All right, let me put Kelly on while I read you a little bit about her. Kelly Light lives in Brooklyn, New York. She's the author-illustrator of the Louise books published by Balzer and Bray, an imprint of HarperCollins. She was first published in 2012 as the illustrator of the chapter book series The Quirks by Ellen Sodenberg, published by Bloomsbury. Things changed quickly for her after that. 5 years later, she was working on a 7-picture book series with her character Louise. She is also working on a standalone picture book, The Smiley Family Album. And I feel like I saw the cover to that on Facebook the other day that Kelly posted. It looks adorable and so funny. And the Smiley Family Album, it will also be published by Balzer and Bray. Kelly has a background in animation and licensed character work for cartoon properties such as Looney Tunes, Disney, Nickelodeon, Hanna-Barbera, or it's Hanna-Barbera, isn't it?
Right.
And Peanuts. She believes it all starts with a heck of a lot of imagination and a whole lot of drawing, and encourages kids and adults to pick up a pencil and never put it down. And how many agents have we heard tell us, you got to be able to draw. You need to be comfortable drawing. And that's why we're so excited to have Kelly with us. She's just a lot of fun. And in just a few short weeks, it's been terrific. And she's already given us this PDF of a lesson that she taught this summer in the Rocky Mountain SCWI about character, visualizing characters. It's a dynamite little lesson. And she's gifted us with the link to it. So I'll be putting that out in a follow-up email. Kelly,
Hello.
Take it away.
Hello.
Take it away. We can't wait. You got a long program for us, a good one.
How you doing? Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. This is crazy. I've never done anything like this before. I've done Skype school visits, but never an interactive kind of class. The most interactive thing I've ever had happen Skyping is that usually at the end of the Skype visits, the teacher or the librarian lines up kids to the microphone to ask a question. And I had a kid get all the way up in my face, but on my screen at the microphone, and vomit.
I've never heard that.
Yes, it was so gross because I saw it, but at the same time, it was hilarious. So, yeah. So don't.
Oh, that is.
No vomiting. So, yeah. So
can't guarantee that. It could happen here.
But. Yeah. So, so talking back and forth with Mark, I really wanted to give you guys an overview about me. I wanted to focus on the character design lesson, but slight problem, which I told Mark, is that I can't show you my slides, but I have the printout, so I will kind of go over it a little bit. But basically what the idea is of what I gave out as a handout and the workshop that I like to give is all about how you draw equals who you draw. Like, that's the idea. So designing your character, it's my favorite part of the process, designing characters. And to me, it is like, if you don't know your character, how are you going to put them in circumstances and know how they're going to act? And it helps you actually write a book if you really know your character. So, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my face and I'm going to put on some slides. And so you're not going to see me anymore. And my mom's house behind me. You are going to see. I'm going to just start showing you stuff. And feel free to ask questions. Mark will probably read your questions because I don't know how well I'll toggle back and forth, but I'll try. I'll try to toggle to read them myself. But if I can't, Mark will actually give me the things that you're asking me as I go through here. So here we go. We're going to click start screen share. And great. So can you see it?
Yep, right, I'm seeing it. Can you guys see it yet?
This is
I think so.
Nothing more than the first thing that goes up when I do a school visit. This is nothing more. And for those of you who aren't familiar with my books, right? So this is the first Louise Loves Art book. So this is a character that I created, which I'm going to go into the story of how she came to be a little bit. But what I would say is when I drew this character, my whole life changed. So I'm going to go through
Wow.
these slides. Okay. So as you know, I'm here in New Jersey. This is where I grew up. I was born here in New Jersey way back in 1970. That little baby staring at that teddy bear, that's me. And my mom and dad have told me that I always made characters out of everything, whether it was the toaster or it was my toys. So I like to say that I'm telepathically communicating with that bear, my fingers up to my head. So that's me when I was a baby, but this is me when I was 5. This is my kindergarten picture. So 6 months before this picture was taken, I decided what I wanted to do with my life. I'm not lying it out. My grandmother came and picked me up. Every Sunday she would take me to see a movie. She lived right near my house, like a couple blocks away. She walked over, she picked me up and took me to the local giant movie palace that we had. It was a really old movie theater in New Jersey, and took me to see Cinderella. There's a scene in Cinderella. Everybody can kind of imagine the scene where the prince and Cinderella are waltzing. They're waltzing around the ballroom, and her dress is swirling, and the music is swirling, and the song is swirling, and it's a song that goes, so this is love, so this is love. And I got so excited in that moment because I realized that this wasn't an actress and this wasn't an actor. These were drawings.
Wow.
So from that moment forward, it's all I wanted to do was make cartoons. And it's really, I had singular tunnel vision my entire life. I was going to be a cartoonist. And I really didn't differentiate between cartoons. It was cartoons that were on TV, cartoons are in movies, cartoons are in the newspaper, cartoons are in comic books, and cartoons are in regular children's books. And to me, all I cared about was I was going to be a cartoonist. So, there's the prince and there's Cinderella. They were drawn by a man named Eric Larson. So I wasn't just the kind of kid who loved art. I was the kind of kid who watched credits. So I was the kind of kid that didn't just love something. I was the kind of kid who needed to know everything about something. So this is the TV that we had when we were big giant TV, almost the size of a sofa. And I didn't just love cartoons on the TV. I loved cartoons on Saturday mornings. So Saturday mornings, I would get up at the crack of dawn to watch Saturday morning cartoons. And my favorite Saturday morning cartoon was the Roadrunner Bugs Bunny show. So Looney Tunes kind of rocked my world when I was a little kid. And then after school cartoons would come on, I'd run home from the bus because there would be the Mickey Mouse Club. And this is the 70s version of the Mickey Mouse Club. And I was an actual official member of the Mickey Mouse Club. I rode away and got my membership. I got my ears. I got my badge. And then Sunday mornings, the Sunday Funnies would come. And I have an older brother, and my older brother and I would race to the newspaper to see who would get the section first, or literally rip the Sunday Funnies in half, because both of us wanted the front page, which included Peanuts. So Snoopy is actually on the dash of my card. If I could explain, I love Snoopy so much. When I was a kid, I had the Snoopy snow cone machine, and I brushed my teeth with the Snoopy toothbrush. I brought my lunch to school in my Snoopy metal lunchbox, and I sharpened all my pencils in the Snoopy electric pencil sharpener. So, and to this day, Snoopy is around a lot in my life. So, so when I was 7, this is me. I went to Disney World. And I always like to say that's my head exploding, because I'm standing next to Winnie the Pooh, and Winnie the Pooh is a drawing. You know, in my mind, I'm like, somebody drew Winnie the Pooh, but look, no, I'm standing right next to Winnie the Pooh. So in my mind, the greatest characters ever created in the history of any kind of media are Snoopy, Mickey, and Bugs Bunny. And like I said, I was not just into the characters. I wanted to know who drew them. So of course we all know Snoopy was created by a man named Charles Schulz. And Mickey Mouse, well, I have a favorite Mickey Mouse. My favorite Mickey Mouse is the Brave Little Tailor Mickey Mouse. It's a certain time period in Mickey Mouse's, and he, in the Mickey Mouse genre, lifespan of Mickey Mouse, my favorite Mickey Mouse is drawn by a man named Fred Moore. And Bugs Bunny has that too. Bugs Bunny is drawn by lots of different people, but my favorite incarnation of Bugs Bunny is by Chuck Jones. and that's Chuck Jones. So, and as far as children's books were concerned, I had two favorites. Richard Scarry. I have all my Richard Scarry books from when I'm a kid, and I still have all my Dr. Seuss books from when I'm a kid. And I think if you look at those, they're cartoonish, and it was what I was drawn to. I was drawn to a stylized but cartoony kind of way of drawing. And that's not to say I didn't love other books too, but these were my favorite. So I'm going to go through these kind of quicker. So this is me when I went off to college and art school. It was 1988. I went off to school with big hair and big dreams.
And big glasses.
And big glasses.
Just like Louise.
Yeah, right. And I'm actually painting backgrounds for the first thing I ever animated. And I think that's freshman year at college. And then when I graduated from college, I went out to Hollywood. I packed up my Buick that had no air conditioning, and I drove across the country with my pet rabbit beside me. And because I had no air conditioning, I used to stop every night. Wherever I stopped at a motel or whatever, I would freeze bottles of water, and I'd put them in the cage with the bunny to keep the bunny cool. So I would be sweating, but the bunny would be like relaxing and chilling on the frozen bottles of water.
How thoughtful.
Yeah. So while I was out there, I actually was an intern on The Simpsons. So I got to work. It was the early 90s. It was the heyday of The Simpsons, and I had a summer internship on the show. One of my first jobs, character designing, was working on the very first Coca-Cola Polar Bear commercial. But the closest I ever got to working for Disney was a job at the Disney store at the mall. It was my dream to work for Disney, but I never worked for Disney Animation. But I did love my job at the Disney store. It was super fun. I lived out there for a couple of years, but I found it very hard in the 90s. In the early 90s, Disney had laid off 4,000 artists, and they were in a little bit of a slump. And when those 4,000 artists were laid off, it became really hard for a new person to get work, a person right out of college. So I moved back to New York, and I took a job at a small animation studio. It was 1995, and I was working in this animation studio, working on there were things for Sesame Street, like shorts for Sesame Street, and they opened a store called the Warner Brothers store in New York City, and they were looking for artists who could draw Bugs Bunny. The phone on my desk at the animation studio rang once, and it was a headhunter, and the headhunter said, "Can you draw Bugs Bunny?" And I was like, "Can I draw Bugs Bunny?" They're like, "I've been drawing Bugs Bunny since I was 5 years old. Do you think I can draw Bugs Bunny?" And so I took a job, and I made merchandise for the Warner Brothers store. And then I did a really good job at that. And then one day the phone rang, and it was the people at Peanuts, and I made merchandise for the Peanuts. And I did a really good job, and finally the phone rang, and I got a job working for Disney. So even to this day, I am under contract with Disney. I think I have 2 more years on my contract, but I don't really do it anymore. I'm not actively doing it because the books have kind of taken over my life. But this is artwork that I did, mostly for cups, popcorn containers, napkins, paper plates, anything that was like a usable item at the theme parks. That's kind of my job. So this is what the final looks like, and then this is what the blue pencil looks like. So that was kind of what I did for a very long time, almost, I guess, a decade of my life, until I had my daughter, which I'm going to fast forward through some of this, but over here, that's my daughter. So I stayed home with my daughter for years and years and years, and this was her. She had one end of my studio, and then I would have been down here. Can you see that little arrow when it moves around?
Yes.
Okay. So down here, this would have been me. And so as she grew up, I kept drawing, and I started to write ideas for books. I wouldn't say I wrote books, but I would come up with characters, and I would keep a big, what do you call those things? Like a 3-ring binder. All my ideas that I came up for children's books would go into this big 3-ring binder. And by 2006, that's when I joined SCBWI, because I figured, all right, she was how old was my kid? She was about 7, I guess, at that point. So I was like, she was already not needing me as much by 7 years old. So I joined SCWI, and I decided I would start trying to get published. So, and then 2006, and then about 6 years later is when I got, my first job. So this is just a picture of my shelves in my old studio. This is not my Brooklyn area anymore, but you can see stuff from my childhood. I still keep it there because I don't think I ever grew up. So I still have all my stuff. So so in 2012, the first thing I got actually was the first call I got was to see if I could design dogs. And this was actually a call from HarperCollins. So they said, "Can you draw dogs?" And I said, "Can I draw dogs? Yeah, I can draw dogs." So this happened within 3 days of each other. So this happened first. And then the next day, I got a call from Bloomsbury. This is all in 2012. And Bloomsbury said, we have this, we need to know if you can draw quirky characters because we have a book called The Quirks. And I again was like, can I draw quirky characters? So within a couple days of each other, these were 2 tests, right? So a lot of times publishing houses will test illustrators, and they will ask you to design characters. And then you will be pitted against other illustrators in a fight to the death to just, who can do the best job on the book. So I got both books. I didn't just I didn't just design a dog. They asked me to design a dog, but what I did instead was I gave them a lot of dogs, right? And I didn't just design a dog. I tried to create characters. So I think the one thing that I hope to impart upon people who want to make children's books is the importance of personality, the importance of acting, the importance of giving life to your characters. So I think that's what I did well enough that I got this job and then I got this job. And those were the first 2 things. That made me cross over and I became finally, published in children's books. And they became this book, which is the first Quirks book. And I'm just going to go through these quickly, but I want to give you an idea of how much drawing I do. This is a cover design. This is a cover design. These are all just ideas.
This for the same cover. Okay.
The same cover. This is a cover design. There's 6 different kind. Well, it's not. These 2 are kind of the same. This one here is the same, but you can see there's all different ideas for the same cover. And then I drew this and I colored this as a color sketch. This is still this is still my favorite, but this is not the one that they picked. But through the, it's always art direction by committee when you work in publishing. So through the many opinions, it became this, which became this, which then became a series. And this is the second Quirks cover. And that was a super fun project to work on. And then this was the dog book. So it's about a big Newfoundland. That's the breed of dog. And so that became that cover. But here again are like this cover sketch, this idea for a book with nothing but a giant Newfoundland, or this one where it's literally just all him. And then including the kids and the school element, because it happens at school. It takes place at school. And then this idea of the rescue dog rescuing the main character. And then finally I did this. And this they loved so much. I like this one better than the final, but this was what I drew, and that became that. And that became a series as well. So my first 2 experiences were taking other people's words and creating characters from other people's ideas, right? Not my own. It was the author's imagination. But I like that experience too. I like the experience of getting someone else's ideas and then interpreting them. It's fun. And then one day I doodled this girl named Louise. So these are some of the first drawings I ever did of Louise. And she's actually a little younger in the first drawings. So these are some of the first drawings I did of her. And these are the actual scraps of paper. So when I draw Louise, I actually draw her with a black Prismacolor pencil on vellum. And then I wind up scanning in those drawings and coloring them in Photoshop. But these are the first 2 drawings I ever did of Louise. And then I just started drawing and scribbling the ideas. And back then I had a blog and I posted everything. And I posted this up on my blog. And then I only wrote these 2 sentences. I love art. It's my imagination on the outside. That's all that I had. I didn't have a manuscript. I didn't have a whole book idea in my head. I'm going to skip forward. But I took these drawings. I took this drawing of Louise and I colored it in Photoshop and I put it on a postcard. And because I lived in Long Island, I put that postcard in the mail. And if you mail a thing in Long Island on a Monday, it's in Manhattan on Tuesday. So 24 hours after I mailed this postcard, from the moment 9 a.m. happened until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone rang and my email inbox filled up. And
Wow.
yeah, every publishing house except for Disney, which I find fascinating, they all offered me book deals.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so Louise was one of those magical lightning strikes where it just hit at the right time. It was 2012, and it was after publishing had been, because of the economy, how we had the recession. Publishing had kind of gone into a slump, and then in 2012 it had an upswing, and this postcard just hit at the right time, and I got a book deal for 1 Louise book. But it was, really magical and amazing. And the whole process of making Louise, I'm going to go through these fast.
Fantastic. Was there an agent that helped you?
I was unagented at the time.
So, okay. The call came right to you.
Yeah, everything came right to me, and I didn't even know what to do with it. I was just I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was happening. I literally was like, asking some of the people on the phone, like, oh, I'm so-and-so from, Penguin, and I'm blah, blah, blah from Random House, and I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, I don't understand. What are you saying? After a couple calls, I was like, this isn't happening. It's happening. And so what happened was, after the call from Louise, I was already working with HarperCollins on the Elvis book, and I was enjoying my experience with Balzer and Bray as their illustrator of that series. And I hadn't even finished the first book, really, of Elvis at that point. I was still working on it. And they kind of said, we want to offer you a book deal for this character, and you're already working with us, and, we already like you, and you already like us, and they said, please don't take any deal until we get a chance. And so then I said, okay, I better find an agent. So before I actually got into the nitty gritty of the contract, it's different writing, being an author and an illustrator, and creating I think my background in licensing helped me think about it this way. I'm creating my own intellectual property, right? It's my character, my design, I am the whole shebang. So I thought, I don't want to go through this contract without protecting myself. So I immediately called all my friends who were already published and said, who's your agent? And do you like them? And I had a list of my dream agents on my wall in my studio, but the agent that I wound up signing with I'm with Curtis Brown is my agency, and Elizabeth Harding is my agent. And she was so amazing when I met her that I knew. I was like, oh, this is it. So so within, if you could think of within a month, I got my first 2 jobs illustrating chapter books. I got my own book deal for Louise, and I got an agent, and it was crazy. That was a crazy month.
Yeah. Great month.
Yeah, so this is what the sketches look like. This is what the finish look like. I'm just going to go through these quickly just to show you.
Are these marker on the vellum?
Most of the sketches are digital, and then when it gets to final, all that line work is done on vellum. So all of those little black lines are done with a colored pencil. But when I'm sketching and sketching fast, I have some on paper and I have some on digital. So yeah, I think in here there's some more images of me sketching on paper. But these are really rough. So, I mean, this is just to show you like how I just sketch and I sketch and I sketch and I sketch. And I draw so much. So many of my drawings never even reach the book. Like they don't even go in the book. Like here's me just trying to explore her reaction. There's a point in the book where Louise's little brother, Art, cuts up her masterpiece drawing. And I was just trying to figure out how she would react. And I just acted out. I acted out myself walking up and down in a room. Like I'll actually go through the room going like, why? Ah, how could you? Ah, and I'll actually physically do these things. And then I'll sit down and I'll act it out on paper. But
Yes.
that to me is super important because I want my characters to feel like kids actually know them. And that harkens back to the fact that I felt like I actually knew Snoopy, Mickey, and Bugs Bunny. So all these drawings are all drawings that, just kept drawing and drawing. And then boom, the first drawing I ever did that I put on the postcard actually wound up in the book. That drawing of her trying to hug her Art on the floor because that was so completely her. She loves Art so much, she's trying to hug her drawings.
The result of a doodle that had no other agenda than just you fooling around.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then, but this is so much work, like how much work I put into my characters. Let me see if I can go back and, if you see this image of her little brother, you see how his hair used to look? It was all curly. But he didn't wind up looking that. He wound up looking like this because he didn't look enough like her brother with curly hair. So, but this is my version of a model sheet. Draw the character in lots of poses, slap it on your wall so that you always have reference for your own character. And I'll talk about that more, the importance of making model sheets for your own characters, and the importance of adding personality to the life of your characters. Like this is a baby picture of Louise that's in the book. This is a toddler picture of Louise that's in the book. Louise has a cuckoo clock, but it's not just any cuckoo clock. It's an artsy cuckoo clock. It's a clock. This is in the book. This is a clock my grandmother had in her kitchen that I now have in my kitchen, a cookie jar that my other grandparents had in their kitchen. And when I was a kid, I had a hermit crab. We actually had 15 hermit crabs here down the shore. And we couldn't tell them apart, so we named them all Herman. So that's in the book. And then there's the cat. The cat is Louise's pet, and the cat is actually kind of like the comic relief in the series, and he also is the one who's kind of like a Greek chorus. He's the one who's always interacting with the reader directly, kind of breaking the fourth wall and making sure that the reader is kind of following along with what's going on with the characters. Before I move on to character design, I don't know if you guys have any questions or.
Well, there's lots of comments and lots of empathy. Yeah, Chris was saying a Disney art director says he acts out in front of the computer camera, then plays back and draws. And I'd never heard that idea before. That's
and it's also really great to use the photo booth on your computer if you want to make expressions with your face. Yeah, I keep a mirror right by my desk, which is another animator.
Classic animator technique. Diana's asking, are all your sketches in black Prismacolor? You said you did some of them digitally, but when you are drawing for real on vellum, you're using Prismacolor, right?
I'll fast forward here to shit. I have a couple like if you look, my favorite thing to draw with in the whole world, and it's again left over from animation, is a blue pencil. So here's an example of my thumbnails, right? And so my favorite thing, I always doodle with a blue pencil. Like that is, it. And then just, again, I love vellum because it's transparent. You can layer it without a light box and see through it. Or you can draw, like over here in the corner, this is my old light box. I now have technology is amazing. I now have what's called a light tablet, and it's so thin. And it's really big. So I still have this is left over from college, my light box. And Chris would like to know, it still has my animation peg bar taped to it from when I was like 20. So anyway, so this is how I like to draw. My messy initial sketches are always like this. They're always blue pencil on vellum.
Now, what's the virtue of the blue pencil again for those of us who get it confused sometimes?
There really isn't any. There really isn't any reason to do it other than I love it because it's what I drew with.
Yeah, it used not to be able to photocopy or something like that.
Well, the one I use is not non-photo. The
It's
initial,
just a blue
right,
pencil.
yeah. Remember the old non-photo blues were used
Right.
by cartoonists, especially comic book artists, because they could ink on top and the blue pencil wouldn't reproduce. But mine is not. Mine is a Burrell Prismacolor. What is it? I probably have one right around here somewhere. But it's not. It's just it's what I fell in love. I'm a little bit of a pencil geek, and I have
Uh-huh.
certain textures of pencils. I love the way they feel when they drag on paper,
Uh-huh.
and like I geek out with some other artist friends about like there's this drag quality about the blue pencil that I just love. And the Prismacolor is hard because it smears, and the blue pencil it will smear as well, but not as much. And I also like a Palomino Blackwing pencil, if anybody uses those,
Okay.
which is the one that I like. Well, I like the one that Chuck Jones used, and that's just because I'm a geek. It is, it's the silvery gray one. I don't remember which one, a 605, I think it is. But so what time are we at? We're at 8:35. So I just wanted to touch on some of the points. This is not my full character design presentation, but I'm going to touch on some of the points that I gave out the handout.
A
And
bunch of this is in the PDF, guys, and we'll resend that link too. And it's up there in the folder too. You'll spot it there. It's
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, the importance of character design to me is if you really know your character, you can put that character in any situation and know how they're gonna act and react. And it helped for me. I'm not a traditional writer, so I don't write words. I storyboard, so the words come last rather than the words coming first. So an author who's a real true author, thinks about the words. I don't. I think in pictures. So for me to really know the characters that I'm drawing helps me. Yeah, helps me write the books. So when it comes to Louise, right? So you kind of still got an idea about Louise, and I showed you the quirks, and this is a model sheet, right, that I made of the characters for the quirks. And again, the importance of putting in the work, all the work that nobody ever sees, right? You put in all the work. I think it's a Chuck Jones quote. You put in all the work and all the love and it eventually shows without you showing people how hard you worked.
Okay.
So I do all these things that I may have learned when I worked in animation and in licensing. I do it for the books because in the end, if I have all of this reference material, when I actually have to go through and do the illustrations, it's already kind of done and it becomes more automatic. So, all right, so, and then like even examples like this, and these again, early versions of the characters, but even knowing like how they sit next to each other size-wise and like where the top of Art's head's always supposed to be compared to Louise's body. Like I do all that stuff.
Yes.
So I'm not going to read all the words in the PDF because you guys can always read words in the PDF. Right. But I like to encourage people to do certain exercises because a lot of people, I think, rush ahead and try to write a book and try to get published without doing the work first. So I highly encourage people to do exercises such as I have in the thing, like you take a bunch of hands off of Google Images. You make a page, just like I've done, right? So it's just hands, and I'm just clipping and cutting. And then I would take the time to draw them, right? So you draw them realistically first, right? So these are all my realistic hands. And if you see, there's like these hands. I wonder if we can see any of the same hands here that we see here. Maybe not.
I think I saw some.
Yeah, some.
We draw connecting lines. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like a first grade
exercise. You can see, like, so these are realistic hands so that you understand actually how a real hand looks. And then you start to say, oh, how am I going to stylize? So some people do children's books that are beautifully realistic renderings, and I adore them, and they're beautiful, and they're lovely. That's not what I do. So I break things down and I cartoon them and I, draw them funny and I change the shapes because that's the way that I see the world. I see the world like there are going to be anvils that fall on my head. So, so anyway, so this is an exercise I think is very important. Because the more you do things like that, and you do it, you can do this and apply it to your character too. You can study realistic hands, and then you draw your own character's hands doing those things. Like if you want your character, if your character is a kid, like look at these little kid hands here, right? If your character is a little kid and you want to interpret it, you have to make sure that you like, oh, look how round and how stubby they are compared to, look,
Yes.
these are an older person's hands. So you have to have that in your head so that when you actually go and draw them, you're thinking about that. You're actually thinking about, what you're trying to convey. And then again, in my handout, I say you do the same thing with eyes and do the same thing with mouths. So you literally, all I did was Google image eyes, right? And then you can draw them. Or I even Google imaged expressions with eyes. And someone out there has already done this for you. All these different kinds of eyes, different shapes of eyes. And this is something you do also with the mirror in front of you or taking photos or videos of yourself. You look at the way eyes squash and stretch and move. There's a thing about the way this line in your cheek, right? When you're happy, when you're angry, and you look at all the ways that these shapes interact with each other, and then you do a page of eyes, right? So start off with realistic eyes, and then you start drawing them in different ways. However it is you like to draw eyes, right? You come over here and you start to draw eyes. Lots of people, it used to be, I would say, when I first tried to get published in 2006, the first time I ever showed my portfolio was at Clarion Books. And the lady who was very lovely, who was the art director there, actually pushed the portfolio away from her and went, oh, the eyes, the eyes. Because they were very cartoony. And back in 2006, I feel like cartoons were still frowned upon in children's books. But lo and behold, a decade later, there are so many cartoonists working in children's books. So I think all bets are off and all styles are welcome. And you don't even have to be a cartoonist. It's just that I think a lot of styles are. I think that the world of publishing has finally caught on to.
Cartoonists are artists too.
Yeah, right? Just kind of letting people a little bit have more freedom,
Yeah.
So, right. So those are exercises that I encourage you guys to do, especially and apply it to your character. And then I even, I just have in here like, oh, there's a realistic picture of a beaver in the handout, and then there's all a bunch of different kinds of beavers. Again, it's just an exercise to say, like, stretch yourself and try to figure out different ways to draw things, and then you could draw 25 different beavers, and only one of them is going to feel like you know them. Why is it that you like that? What is the beaver that you've drawn that you like the most? And then there's another page in here which is just heads and expressions, and not just drawing happy, sad, mad, scared, but doing things that are subtle, expressions that are subtle, like worry or surprise or awe. Like actually acting, which is what I do. Like I had, this page with Louise, like acting with your character. Put your character through the paces. And that way, when you're actually doing your finished illustrations, it's so much easier. Like here's another art page. This is the early art when he had the curly hair. And this is just me just drawing him in all different things to try to understand him. Because if you think back to the quirks and all those quirk sketches, like this is my favorite illustration I think I ever did of the quirks. It's in one of the books. I just knew these two girls so well. And the personalities of the girls were, this one was very awkward and shy, and this one was very outgoing. And there are just moments where I'm like, oh yeah, I nailed that.
Sure.
All right, so there's that beaver thing I was talking about too, of a picture of a real animal right? And all the different ways you possibly could draw that animal.
Kara has. Can I throw in a question
Yeah.
from Kara? She's got a really good question, and I don't want to overlook it or forget it.
No, yeah.
She says it's kind of a big general overview question. Kelly, it seems like you've always been so confident and self-assured. In your career, have you ever felt discouraged?
Mm-hmm. So I think it was almost 7 years before I got published. So I had 7 years of going, and I was someone who went to a lot of portfolio showings. So not only did I belong to SCBWI, live in New York, and go to the New York conference, which was once a year. I went to the New York local chapter meetings. I belonged to a group called CBIG, which was every month they would invite an art director, an editor, or an agent, and we would show our portfolios. I made my own appointments when I could to show my portfolio. So I had almost 7 years of rejection. And that was just on art. Yeah, art alone. So yes, it doesn't go away either. So even though I have these book deals, which I like to remind people, a lot of people will hear people publish stories of getting published, and they'll think that, oh, they've got it made. But you're only as good. It's kind of like the music industry or the movie industry. You're only as good as your last book. Every book that comes out, the sales of that book, it affects your ability to get the next book. So you're always going to get rejected. There's always the possibility. My foot's in the door, which is, and I think I got, even though I'm a size 7, I got a really big foot in the door. Like I do think that I've got a big foot in the door. But still, my own editor who I work with, Alessandra Balzer at Balzer and Bray, I can still propose stories to her and she can reject them. If I ever choose to work with a different publishing house or a different editor, they're still going to reject, So yes, I have been discouraged very much. I had one moment in my pursuit of publishing where I was going to quit. It was 2010. So it was 2 years before I got published, and I was at a conference in New York, and someone said I had no business in children's books. Animation, maybe. Licensing, maybe. And they didn't know that I used to work in animation or licensing, but they guessed it by my artwork, and they said, but you have no business in children's books.
That is the strangest thing for anyone to have ever said. That's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. And that really did. It took me a good 6 months to get over that. Like, I don't think I really did anything for 6 months after that person said that. So yeah. Yes, but I also think, and I will tell you, so I have a 17-year-old daughter looking at art schools for college right now, and I'm trying to ease her into the life, because you don't choose the life of an artist. It kind of chooses you. And you have to, I want her to go in with her eyes open, that that's what it is. It's the kind of thing, it's like you have to know going in, it's not easy. So you really have to love it. Like, you have to cultivate an inner strength to do this. And you have to believe in yourself enough. It never stops stinging. Rejection never stops hurting. But it's kind of that thing where you kind of learn to roll with the punches rather than have them knock you out. So, so that's all I can say. And the only way,
great response.
Right, and the only way that you can learn to roll with them is by putting yourself out there.
Yeah, building up those muscles and scar tissue, protective scar tissue.
It's true, and then because if you're afraid of it, you're never going to stop flinching. You're never going to do it. You're never going to get into the ring, which is what you kind of have to do. So, I hope that was helpful.
Okay, good.
So, yeah. So I'm going to go through these real quick. I just want to talk about the importance of gesture drawing.
Great.
Yes. So if you were in my workshop, which is what I do, I make people volunteer to pose, and we do a good half hour of gesture drawing of everybody standing up and posing. Gesture drawing and gesture drawing from life and life drawing, you cannot be an artist if you don't draw from life. There will never be life in your drawings if you don't do life drawing. So you have to go out and look at people and look at children, because if you're going to draw children, you better know how to draw children. You want to do kids' books, you have to be able to draw kids. Some people draw animals better than they do people, but you still need to know about kids because you're making books for kids. So these are just examples of, these are not mine. I just, because I couldn't get my slideshow up, I just stole these off the internet real quick. But these are examples of gesture drawings. They are not finished drawings. These are with as few marks that as possible as you can make. You're just trying to capture the movement and the action and the acting in as few marks as possible. And these things then become the skeleton that you can lay your own characters over. So if you study from life, it will become your own visual reference library in your brain. And these are the books I highly, highly, highly recommend. Everyone in the world should own these two books. Drawn to Life, Volume 1 and 2 by Walt Stanfield. He was the life drawing teacher, the instructor at the Walt Disney Studios for 30 years. And these books are not just about life drawing, but they're about drawing for your entire life and the life of an artist. So you need to read these.
Wow, volumes 1 and 2. Okay.
Yes, they are the best books in the world. And then the other best book in the whole world is this book, and I have had mine since I was about 10 years old. This is the same book. This is the original cover on the left, and this is the later cover on the right. If you buy the new version, they do not look like these, and the new version is edited. So if you go on eBay, get the original versions off of eBay. And this is Preston Blair, is one of the greatest animators who ever lived. He did Red Hot Riding Hood. So these are the most important books in the whole world also.
These are two separate books, Kelly?
No, this is one book that has two different covers from when it was published. It was first published with the yellow cover, and then it was reissued with the blue cover, but they have the same insides. So if you get a new version, Walt Foster still publishes this book, but it is edited and it's not good. So if you can go on eBay and find how to animate film cartoons with either one of these covers, you have the best book ever. So I highly
Wonderful. Yeah, the great Preston Blair. You can just do an image search of his work on his animation drawings are amazing.
They're so gorgeous. And again, like, he's not as famous as other animators, but yet all the other animators learned from him, which is amazing. So, so I'm going to scan right through my final slides, and then we're going to start looking at your guys' characters. So just to give you guys a quick overview of what I was saying, how I write in pictures, because I don't write in words. This is where these slides that we were on before. So everything starts with thumbnails, tiny little thumbnails, and they are scribbly. But if you can kind of see, like, this is the staircase that actually wound up in the book. So this is me just getting the ideas out of my brain. So these are more scribbly thumbnails. And these are a little bit cleaner. These are later thumbnails, trying to figure out the flow of the book. What I do is when I finally have these, I will draw a cleaner version of my thumbnail, and then I will print it big, and I hang it on my wall. And if you can see down here, can you see where my arrow is going around?
Yes,
These strips of paper are my words. So what I do is I have the whole book drawn in pictures, and I write words, and I put them on strips of paper, and I put them up, and I take them down. This is how I wrote the first book. I didn't know how to write a book. I'd never written a book. So it was a very physical method, and it was more like making a cartoon like they do. They put up boards on the wall, and everybody kind of goes in a room, and they take things up and put them down, and that's how I made my first book. Wow. So yeah, and I showed you guys those. So the importance of storyboarding, real quick. I storyboard everything, so I wound up storyboarding. This is for my book trailer. This was the first opportunity I had to animate something since I was 25 years old. So these are pencil tests of animating Louise.
Look at that. Wow.
And that's her falling. And then this is little Art, and he just picks up his crayon. So this is magic. This is art magic.
It is.
Is the rest. And here's the cat. If you can see it, the cat just kind of jumps. And then this is Louise, and she's drawing on her floor. And I think we're not going to play you can watch the finished trailer, We
We'll
don't have.
get the links and we'll send you
Yeah,
guys the links.
there are
Yeah,
two
because you have to watch
trailers.
the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, there's two trailers. One for the first book and one for the second book. And this is the second Louise book, Louise and Andy, The Art of Friendship. And what I did, the first book I got a whole year to make. The second book I only got about 6 months, start to finish, to do the
Wow.
second book. Yeah, because it's a series, they wanted them out quickly. I have since completely obliterated that schedule, but they wanted them out very quickly in succession. So I didn't do it the same way I did the first book, but I still made storyboards. And if you can see that, this is how I wrote the second book. I don't know if you can see. Is there a zoom? There's a zoom.
There
Zoom.
is a Zoom somewhere.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you zoom in, you can kind of see I'm writing in these little thumbnails, and what I'm doing is I'm actually writing the words of the book like on my thumbnails as I'm going through. And I did I think 6 versions of these storyboards before I came up
with complete drawings like this of this caliber.
Yeah, I did it.
Wow.
I did them because I didn't have time to mess around.
Yeah.
So I would do things like this, and I wish I had a, let's see, view. Zoom in. No, you can only zoom in, but you can kind of see, like, I was trying to map the book out color-wise, story-wise, drawing-wise, all at
The
once.
whole thing. Wow.
Because
Yeah.
I didn't have as much time. I had a whole year on that first book. It was like this great magical year to try to figure out, because I had never written a book before, so I really didn't even know, you know.
So on the second one, you're kind of riffing the words and the text as you go along, kind of flying by the seat of your pants. So okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
So
right there on the storyboard. Wow, that's interesting.
So I did this, but even this, you can see this is the perfect layout of a picture book breakdown of and I do 40-page picture books, so that's what these are. Yeah. So, and this is one of a close-up of one of those little tiny squares, and this is me writing. That's how
there you go. Now, and this is your paperwork. This is not something the editor would necessarily see.
Oh no, this is what my editor is such a patient person. I think I'm a little cuckoo. And this is what I turned into my editor and art director. And I think
it's your dummy, like.
Yeah, I turn this in instead of a dummy. And they roll with it. Like
sure, well, they're so well done. Yeah.
They have never said to me, this is not how other people do it. They just kind of say, this is how you do it. So it's awesome. And then these are more storyboards, just to show you. I'm a storyboarder. This is the second trailer, which you can see both of them on YouTube. And the second trailer is, I think, I love both trailers, but this one is really good. This is, if you guys love the opening for the Pink Panther cartoon, like that's the kind of thing I was trying to go for. So this is, that's the storyboards for this. And oh, I think I might actually have it, but you guys can watch that. I don't want to take the time up because I want to get to your work. This is what I just finished. So this is completely different. This is a reader. Louise has a reader series, which is the leveled, like I can read books. So I have to be totally different. You cannot, you have to be completely literal with a reader because all the vocabulary is very specific for the age. So here are some awful, horrible thumbnails for the reader, and then these are my sketches. They have to be very specific. Like every single thing in this image has to exactly be in the text. Like, we will make cupcakes into works of art. We will make a rainbow of cupcakes.
Yes.
You cannot deviate. Like a picture book is like poetry, where you can be kind of loose and free and let the reader kind of. But not with a reader. Like this is literally
first graders are learning to read with these books.
You have to be like, red and yellow make orange. Yellow, blue make.
I love the voice. Yeah.
Yes. So that's the first one, and then the second one is this one, Louise and the Class Pet. So there's a guinea pig. He comes home. He looks like Picasso. His name is Pigcasso. And I feel like I actually designed a guinea pig that looks like Picasso. So these are the sketches for the second reader. So I just finished these guys. And then finally, this is the book that I'm going to be working on for the next year. I get a whole year to work on this book because it's a very complicated picture book. It's a found photo album. It's as if you went somewhere and you found somebody's lost old photo album. And And this character right here, the baby, it turns out in the book that she's the one who actually put together, it's her photo album that she put together over the time of her life. And I love old photos. These are my grandmother's. I have a lot of my family's old photos, but I also collect old family photo albums, and I collect old cameras. And the idea is that today, here is my old iPhone. Today, where do we keep our photos? On our phone. But photo albums were family treasure, and family was treasure. And today we don't seem to care as much about either of those things. So that's part of the idea for the book, but it's actually about a family called the Smiley family, and most of the characters do not smile. And there's different reasons for it. And they're not all nice reasons. They're actually kind of weird. But just to show you the character design aspect, this is the baby, and I took the time to make a timeline through the life, through the years, because the baby lives out its life. The baby grows up and eventually you think passes away at the end because the book is lost. So I took the time to design this baby as she grew up.
That's uncanny.
Yep.
That looks just like her.
Because
all the way through her life.
All the way through her life, because it's important to me to know my character that much. There's a little that's a little image of her. So I'm done with my slideshow now. So.
I want to see the movie version of that one.
Yeah, right.
Well, all of them really. I just put the link to the movie trailer up on the chat box, but we'll send it out in the link, and we'll put the links to all of her trailers. Kelly, that was fantastic. That was, you know what? That was like a semester of art school in one night, a whole semester.
So I hope everybody, can you see me yet or no?
Yeah, no, I'm seeing you, and I think the group will be seeing you in a second. There's a little bit of a delay. You're on the YouTube page. Yeah, we are seeing you.
You are seeing me.
And while you're pulling up do you want to take a couple questions? There have been lots of comments and questions.
Yes, mostly comments. I will happily talk to people.
Some of these are like questions that we don't want to take time to answer because these are questions that are pretty out there. They're like you can find these out in any how-to book. So let me look for the more personal questions. And yeah, so for example, why 40 instead of 32? Well, because the signatures are in 40 as well as 32.
Right, so it's in multiples of 8, right? 32 being the skinniest picture book, but there are picture books that go up from there. If you look at something like, why am I not? I can't remember his name. Oliver Jeffers recently had a book came out that was like this thick, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it's so beautiful. So multiples of 8, they can go up. It's very rare to get more than 40 because they're expensive to print. But you can go up from 32 to 40, and you can go to 48. You can go up. It's just that the cost goes up to produce those books.
Right. Kathy says, clapping, amazing. Carol says, lots of comments about the presentation. And of course, this will bear repeated viewing, I think. This is one of those kinds of presentations. What an amazing artist you are. Okay, well, I'm going to get you the transcript of this, Kelly, so you can read them later. But let's move to the folder. And if you have more questions, guys, Kelly's ready to answer your questions. So don't just keep putting them up there.
So, well, the first thing is that I'm so happy that I'm going to refresh this real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to, let me see if I can, you can still see my face, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So let me go and see if I can show you. Let's see. If I go to my desktop and hit screen share, and then I go to Google Drive. Do you now see the Google Drive thing?
Yes, perfectly. You've got it up. It's, yeah.
Awesome. So I am glad that so many of you actually did the homework and sent in your designs, and I'm actually thrilled that some of you sent in some of your own characters too. I think that that's awesome to see.
You asked to see them.
I don't remember doing that, but I'm thrilled.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I had probably had England brain at the time.
Yes.
But no, like it is for me. I just don't love to make art. I love to look at art, and I love to look at other artists and the way that they think and the way that they draw. So I wrote down 10 that jumped out of me, and then at me, and then if we have time, we'll kind of talk about more. So The first that jumped out at me was Chris's Nova. So Chris Perry's Nova. If we can open that and you guys can, there you go. You can probably
Yeah.
see,
Mhm.
everybody can see.
And
Um,
you can enlarge those as well somehow or another. I think
let's
it's the plus
see.
underneath.
Oh,
So if you
oh,
need
there we
to,
go. Okay, cool.
yeah,
So I don't know if that helped at all, but
yeah.
the first thing that jumped at me was the choice of the hair shape and how that implied a star. And I thought, because I'll tell you, so these character descriptions, I think if I gave you the example, I don't know if I gave you an example. I think in my handout, I wrote the example of my own character description of Louise. When I was given that book, The Quirks by another author, so a lot of times if you're given a manuscript written by an author to illustrate as the illustrator, they will provide a character description. So when I was given The Quirks, the only description of the girls that I got were they were girls that had a magical quirk. Think of it like a magical burp, magic they can't control. And the visual description was they're fourth grade twins that are awkward with hair like curly parsley. That's the only description I got. But that was a lot. And
Uh-huh.
the hair can do a lot to convey a personality of a character. Those girls had hair like curly parsley, which meant their hair was out of control and their magic was out of control and they felt their lives were out of control. So it's a visual clue to the character. Louise has 4 choppy bangs that hang over her forehead. Why are they choppy? Because she cuts her own bangs. I don't tell anybody that. I made the mistake of telling a child that, and I thought, oh, they just went home and cut their own bangs.
Yes.
So this spoke to me because the choice of how Chris designed the hair, it is awesome because it is star-like and hair-like at the same time. So
Yeah.
I thought that this was a very smart choice. I also loved how he included facial expressions. So he didn't just design the character. A lot of people will design a character and make the character stand. And they will stand and they will be a full frontal pose standing with their hands in their pockets and or behind their back. And he drew the character and the character up here literally appears to be gliding, right? Gliding through the heavens. And there's
Yeah.
the star trail. So the hair is also reacting to that and reacting to the glide and changing shape. And it's just great. Oh, look at that. Look what I can do. I didn't even realize it. Oh, wait, no, I messed that up. I can zoom in and zoom out a lot. And I didn't even
A lot. Yeah.
just by moving my fingers.
Up right here on the chat screen so you can click on
Right.
the folder and see for yourselves.
Technology is wonderful. So Jeanette drew Archie clearing the table with a lot of anger, with the swing of the trunk, which is perfect. And there's the toes flying, and the way that Archie is sitting there with the knees crossed completely implies how persnickety and proper, right? He is. I thought
Yes.
the choice of the tiny little glasses and the tiny little bow tie, because a mammoth is huge. So to play off sizes by making somebody humongous wear things that are tiny is a great choice. In the tininess of the teacup, how you made the teacup so precious and tiny.
Yeah.
And then there's a bird down here, and it's tying a bow on Archie's tail. So I thought all of these little things help. All of these little details help convey the character, and I thought that she did a great job with that.
Great. Yeah.
And then number 3 is not my homework, but it stuck out to me as a great character, which is this, Doug's unicorn. That unicorn literally rocks. Like, it's really great. I really like this unicorn. Is the unicorn wearing braces? Let me see if I. Oh yes, the unicorn has braces. I mean, come on, that is great. That is great. I just think that this is just epic. And the, look at the way he's sucking on that drink floating in the pool. I just think this is a great character. And I would love to see that character in a book. Even though, okay. So number 4 is an Oscar. Oscar is the playground archaeologist. And I'm going down to the M's. And okay, so here's an example of a character. And I clicked on it once and it didn't pop out.
Oh,
Oh, there it did. You can see that bigger now? Okay. Can you see? Yeah, okay.
yes.
All right. So here's a character who's drawn a little bit more realistically. It's still stylized, but what it has is it has actual more real life proportions. This is beautiful. This drawing here is beautiful. This is a beautiful drawing. Look at that. Like you can actually feel the wind in his hair. Yeah, I saw these and I was like, this is glorious. So to have his backpack and have all that stuff tumbling out, his gear, the fact that he has, I guess it's like Nessie kind of, or what is there's an actual water dinosaur that Nessie's based on. I don't remember. My daughter would know, but I don't remember. But I just thought this was completely successful. You have emotion here and you have action, and this is Maria Koch, right?
Yeah.
Maria Koch.
Maria Cook, yeah.
Cook. This is slamming. This is great. When I see things like this, I get all excited because I love a good drawing. So I thought that was a perfect interpretation of the character in a more realistic, lifelike interpretation. I thought it was
Guys,
great.
remember too that you can adjust the settings on, if you're like on my screen. I had to pull my screen and refresh it, and it was real fuzzy, the YouTube watch page. So you go over to the little gear icon for settings, click it, and you can take it all the way up to 720 high res and see Maria's picture in all its sharp glory.
Yeah. Okay, so then I have Sarah. All right, Sarah did Oscar, and we want to see a contrast between Maria's and Sarah's.
Okay.
Both amazing, but so completely different. So there is a thing I call what's the word I'm going to call it? I call it like it's called like the Snoopy principle. So Snoopy is a character that can't be drawn and turned. If you guys know I don't know. In my workshop I talk about turnarounds and drawing your character in a mentally three-dimensional way. So some characters can't be turned in 3 dimensions because they're drawn in a 2-dimensional, flat, very highly stylized way. If you can imagine Snoopy, and I know we all can imagine Snoopy in our head, Snoopy's always drawn with his nose to the side. Because if you turned him 3-dimensionally to the front, all you would see would be a big round white circle with a black nose, and you wouldn't see the back of his head, his eyes, anything. So that's because he's highly stylized and designed, and that's what Sarah kind of has with her work.
Yeah, and it will take a few minutes.
Wait, while it's going, I'm just going to say I brought up Oliver Jeffers because I thought that maybe Sarah would be a fan of Oliver Jeffers. But I wanted to say that Sarah's drawings, did you hear me say how much I love the way she writes her name? Because it works perfectly with...
It does, it fits. I don't remember you saying it, but yeah, it sure does. It looks like part of the same.
I want to say, if you're not published and you get published, you should hand letter your books because your handwriting is perfect for the style of your drawings. And I wanted to say that because you put these wire rim glasses on Oscar, even though each character is a little bit different in how you chose to draw him, the idea of who he is comes through perfectly. His messy hair, his wire rimmed glasses, he looks like that perfect nutty professor little boy. And I thought your choices were amazing, and I mostly wanted to say I enjoy the way she breaks the rules, and I think that her drawings are beautifully wonky and wonderful. So,
great.
Great, Valerie. Valerie did Archie also. And I thoroughly enjoy the hairy pencil lines, especially look at this drawing up on the left is just gorgeous. Look at the way Archie is holding the teacup with his trunk and pouring the teapot. This is just...
Do you want to enlarge it a little bit?
Let's see if I can enlarge it. Yeah.
There's a plus sign down
the plus sign. Yep.
See if that does it. I don't know if it does. Oh, how fun to see it close up.
This is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love your line. And it's great. And look, Earl Grey, and there's none left, right? Why is he so upset? Because there's no more Earl Grey. So I will say, I'm gonna point out these top two are perfect. This bottom one, his eyes got too big. If you look at the size of his eyes here and the space over the trunk, this proportionately is an absolutely beautiful face. And then you go down here and the eyes got a little too big. So that's character consistency. So that's kind of where you have to draw a character 500 times and go back and check your drawings and make sure that you are maintaining the integrity of how you designed the character. And you do that by literally going, his ears are here. How far are they from the eyes? How far are the eyes from each other?
Yeah.
And in my workshop, I talk about construction. You actually create yourself guidelines. That's how when you work in animation or in licensing, and you have like 500 people who are all drawing the same character.
Yeah.
You have to break the character down into shapes, and then you map out where all of the features are, so that that whole team of people can draw the character exactly the same. So I do that for my own characters, and I think everybody should do that for their own characters. That way, as you draw a character page to page in a 32-page book, it's consistent. Yeah, so I think if you can look closely, another beautiful design choice up here is these particular lines here at the top of the trunk make the trunk more three-dimensional. These,
Yeah.
and that's, when you're drawing with all these nice, loose, beautiful pencil lines, the change in direction actually suggests, dimensionality or form. So if they were repeated on every drawing of his trunk, I think that would be great. Here you have harder lines, and that's a design choice, but I think this is so much more successful on this character. So that's something else to think about. So that was Valerie. The next person is Natalie. Natalie, I chose these characters. And I know that these aren't characters that I asked anybody to draw, but I want to tell you, the cat and the snail are awesome. I like this snail. This snail right here, what a great character he is. He is super happy. This snail's cute too, but does not have anywhere near the amount of personality that this guy has right here. And this cat is awesome, especially like this drawing of the cat. But I love the way your characters work together. Sometimes people can't draw characters that look like they fit together in the same world, but yours do. The quality of your animals and the quality of your people go together. I prefer these tiny little feet in your drawing style than these feet. These feet are not sitting perfectly on the ground. Think about like Curious George and Olivia, and there's these iconic children's book characters. So I think that's an example. Well, how can you create a character that lasts like that? And I think it's.
Do you have a thought about? And this is something that I've always wondered about, is there is character, and you create characters, but there's also caricature, where something is just too cartoony, and it looks like the cartoony is almost an excuse for not really getting to know the character, because you're falling back on stereotypes and the way something is drawn or the shape. And is there a way to walk that line? I guess it's just kind of what you're saying, isn't it? Which you're just getting to know that character so well by drawing him so many times that he becomes real and not a caricature or a straw character that we've really seen before, we don't really buy into. So.
Right. I think that there are definite. Can you hear an echo? Because I can.
Not really, not bad.
Okay, as long as it's not bothering you guys. So I think that there are people who do hang on too much to their idea of what a cartoon is, or their idea of what a children's book character should look like. That's a process of finding out who you are as an artist. I will tell you, I told you about the art director who pushed away my portfolio. That portfolio was no good. It wasn't good. Like, I don't think she was wrong.
Oh.
I think that I came right out of licensing to make my first, I was home with my daughter, but I was still freelancing and licensing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I took a little bit too much from my animation background. And I think you can still see my animation background in my work, but
Mm-hmm.
I think I was too strongly attached to it. And,
Mm.
Louise, the reason why I think Louise was the character that got published is I got back to drawing with a pencil
Mm-hmm.
instead of using Photoshop, which I still use Photoshop, but I don't do everything in Photoshop. I went back to my hand and I went back to drawing and being loose. I have left a million mistakes in my drawings. Instead of overcorrecting, I leave them there. I don't worry about making every little mark perfect because I want it to be perfectly imperfect. I want to have you feel like somebody actually just did that drawing without overthinking. So
Yeah.
I think that's also, but I also think that the ability to do that comes out of doing all the work, So I don't know if that answered the question.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. Just to make it more of a living character, and it is not a cartoon. It's something quite different. But
Right.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
Good.
yeah. So, all right, I have a few more. Should I go on?
Yeah. Please, if you would.
Okay. All right, cool. So I'm going to
For
go
home
back to
view.
the screen share desktop, start screen share. Okay. All right, ready? Let's try this again. Can you see?
Beautiful. Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, so the last person I was talking about was this, and I told how I love that snail, right? Did you
Yes.
hear me say that? Okay.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
talking about the feet, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so these.
Oh, and getting the character and the characters look like they're part of the same story. The boy character, the
Right. Well,
animal
I felt,
character.
she was successful in creating characters that all look like they belong in the same world, and I thought that was great.
Right.
Okay, so that was Natalie, and then I had Glenda's Nova. So let's find Glenda. Glenda, here you are. Okay, Glenda and your Nova. All right, so you did 3. There's this one, and then there's this one. Okay, so I'm going to tell you I love this one, and I love this one. And then the same thing, but the middle one is not, it's like you're trying to draw the same character, but she doesn't have all the same proportions. So what is beautiful about this is the character has a larger head and a smaller body. So it looks like a small child. We go to the next one, and the body gets a little bit elongated and the head is smaller. So that makes it look like an older version of the character. But here we have another big head and a small arm. This is actually a really nice drawing. It's just really simple and nice. So so I like this character a lot here. And then I'm just pointing out you did 3. So this is something also to there's a cartoon convention called a circle and a bean, which is how Mickey Mouse is drawn. So this head is based on a circle, so is Mickey Mouse's. And then there's a bean-ish shape, like a little bean at the body. And if you drew on top of vellum or tracing paper over your character and you mapped out the shape and size of this head, the shape and size of the body, and then the length of the arms, like this arm is a little bit longer than this arm. This arm is perfection. This arm gets a little bit big and stretched out. But if you mapped out the basic shape of the body, and size and shape, and then you put it on top of this drawing, you would see how it's different.
Mm-hmm.
You match up the circle with the circle of this head, and you'll see how you stretched out the proportions. And then you would kind of understand how would her body fit behind this. And then that helps. It helps to keep your character consistent. But I liked the design of this character. I thought it was great. And I liked the scribbly quality too. Liked that a lot. So that was Glenda. And then I have Colleen. Colleen did Archie. Where are you, Colleen? Doobie doobie doo, Colleen. Oh,
Glenda says, thanks for the super useful tips. I totally see where I can improve now.
Yay. Okay. Archie.
Yeah.
Okay, so Archie, this Archie is all about his hairdo. I mean, what a great hairdo. He gave him because it is so cool. I like that you went ahead and made him play croquet. That wasn't in the description, but that fits his personality perfectly. So all of these things, like look at I'm going to zoom in on this, the expression on this face here. Like he's afraid of a mouse. Of course, he shouldn't be, but he is. So I just thought, and look, I believe he's like trumpeting his, right, through he's doing the thing. So I thought these were really great. And especially this face right here is really great. So yeah, I would like.
It's really refreshing.
Right, really great. Yeah, I think.
How do you feel about the proportion consistency?
I think this is the perfect proportion here. You could also maybe make his head a little bit bigger, because here his head is bigger than it is here. Here his head's a little smaller on his body. But the same thing again. If you map it out in basic shapes, then you have a guide. And once you map it out in basic shapes, you can kind of understand again how to turn them in space. So
yeah.
His ears look a little bit different here than they are here. His ears are smaller, right? Mm-hmm. Here his ears are stretching, which is fine for to give him the feeling that he's blowing really hard out of
trumpeting. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this one here is great. So
I like that table leg, don't you?
The claw foot, yeah.
A little detail. Okay.
Very good. So that was great. And then I have where is it? D-A. I don't even know. I wrote D-Y-N-E, but I don't see it anywhere. D-Y-N-E.
D-Y-N-E.
Dane?
Oh yeah, we do have it. Dane, yeah, she's here.
And I'm looking for you here. Where are you, Dane?
She's got to be there.
Dane, did Oscar?
Oh, go to the lower right side. I think I just saw her flash by for a second.
Okay.
Up a little bit.
Kathy, J. It looks like they're in alphabetical, but I don't see it. I see Danette, which we talked about. But Dane, I will just say Dane did Oscar. Oscar is the archaeologist, the sandbox archaeologist. And if I could find you, I'll just say now, Dane, I liked yours.
Everybody go back and look at Dane's in the folder. Yeah. The folder link is up there on the
I don't
chat.
see it here.
Things drop out sometimes. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I'm just going to hit refresh. Let's see if it pops up.
Okay.
D-A. There's Danette. There's Danette again. It should be right after Danette, but it's not.
Gee, I just feel like I saw it a minute ago, but Control F doesn't work on the Google Drive, does it?
Let me see if it doesn't. If it's here and it just doesn't show up. Nope, there's Danette.
And it's not in a file folder.
No, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
You didn't make it up.
Well, everybody. Well, what were you gonna say about Dane? And maybe we can.
I can't off the top of my head. I don't remember.
Yeah, there's so many of them. Yeah.
Yeah, at the top of my head.
Sorry, Dane.
Dane, you can always ask me at a later date. But
yeah.
As far as time-wise goes, I want to open it up to questions. I don't want to. I'd love to keep going about everybody's art, but
well,
I want people to have.
You wanted to do that now, or?
Well, it's 9:39. You tell me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I told you we were only going to hold you to 75 minutes because you've got a life and it's exhausting to do what you're doing, which is talking to a group that you can't even see. So, okay, so she's willing to take a few questions from the group. And also I want to tell you that that Kelly is willing to let go of her email for us, and I will follow up with I won't put it on YouTube because somebody could find this link and see the video, but I will, in the follow-up email, I'll include Kelly's email. If you want to email Kelly with a specific question, and maybe if you wanted a portfolio consult or something, kind of how we do that. It's just between you guys. Set your own terms. Kelly will tell you, how she can help or not, and so she's willing to hear from you and do some consulting or private one-on-one time if anybody wants to talk to her about that. You guys will have to just negotiate your own thing. Has nothing to do with guest group critiques. And so there is that. Kelly, did you have anything to add to that? Let me.
Yeah, no, yeah, I will give Mark my Gmail, and then you guys can contact me directly. I'm willing to help people with breaking down their characters. I'm willing to help you, give you clues on turning your characters. I'm willing to help you with portfolios, because I did a lot of portfolios in my time. So so anything I can help along those lines. So yeah, you can just email me, and then we'll talk about it. As far as like.
Okay, that's very kind of you and very generous, and so anyway, so there is that. Kelly, Dane just said that her piece was under S for Sislin, which is her last name. Do we want? Can we just look real quick
Amazing.
And see if we can find?
Let me see. Start my screen.
You looked so hard for it.
Yeah, S.
SS. We're all looking to look.
Oh,
now.
There you are. Yes. This was it. Can you see it?
Yep. It looks great. Yeah.
Yes. So I thought this was great. So you took out of the sandbox into the sand at the beach was a great choice. Yeah, I thought the character had a great pose that you can tell that he's pushing down on that shovel. So you had great action. And I thought he has a character giving him the pith helmet was great. All the gear, the bag, and the magnifying glass. And I just thought it was just a really great drawing. And adding the crab in there makes it cute.
Okay.
Yeah, I see. It was Dane. You assigned your name, but it was under S. Okay.
Great.
So, yeah, I thought he was a great character. Yeah, I'd love to see him in other poses and see him, kind of moving around, because he's really cute in this one drawing. I like how big his feet are. So I would just want to
see more versions of him.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. All right, we've got one question, and then we'll close out with that so we can let Kelly rest. And it was a good question. Jorge, who is watching us from Spain, is saying tons of great information, by the way. And where was that great question? It's from Diane. What are the keys to an iconic character? Do you have any thoughts about something like that? What are the keys to an iconic visual character?
Okay, well, first of all, the key is that you need to know your character inside out, backwards, and forwards. Not just visually and in drawing the character, but you need to know their personality. So that character then has to feel real to a kid. So you have to be able to think as a kid. You have to remember, like I always think the age that I am most in touch with is when I was like 7. 7 was a great age. Now, when you're making picture books, you're really doing younger. 7, Louise is 7 years old and her brother is 4. And that's about the top age you really want to put in a picture book. Because you want to be able to, relate to the readers of the book. So picture books are birth to 6, you really want to think about. So you want to be able to think. And if you can't remember yourself what it's like to be that age, then you better get around some kids that age and observe them. I can remember, like I can act like that. So, but I think if you think about the iconic characters, right? When I say Olivia, you immediately think precocious, right? When I say, let me think of another iconic character. Now this is all in my presentation, and I have mind destroying.
Yeah, I know. I'm still looking at pictures.
But Eloise.
Oh, Eloise. Okay.
Not a big fan. Not a fan. But she's so specific. You know her. She's kind of a brat.
You do know.
Right?
You feel like you know her.
Yeah. You feel like you know her. Right? And how often do people call their little kids monkeys? And you think about Curious George and how he gets into trouble, right? He eats a puzzle piece and he paints the walls of his room, and he's still a kid. Even though he's a monkey, he's just in place of a kid. So if you're drawing animals, you want that animal to be relatable and either act like a kid or act like a real human that a kid can say, like, I know that. I get that, panda bear, So I think that is, to me, the reason why there are characters who stand the test of time, and there are characters who are iconic, is that they are so real. They're so realized that they feel real to the kids. They become a kid's friend. Really do. They really do.
Yeah. They're that real.
Yeah.
The kids know. They see right through the BS, and they know something
Right.
real.
And
we all do.
The end result is, and I am a lucky beneficiary of the end result, is that if you create a character that kids completely feel like they know, you get mail. You get mail from kids, and you get drawings of your character. Then you get pictures of kids dressing up for Halloween as your character. Like, it is the greatest. You get pictures of kids dressed as your character and drawing pictures, which is what I get. I get kids drawing, which is like, I feel like my job's done.
Oh, that's fabulous.
If I've made kids draw, that's all I want.
That is a priceless answer to what makes an iconic character. That is an unforgettable moment. Guys, this is the time to type in your thanks, those of you who haven't already done so, to Kelly for a spectacular presentation and critique, and a visit with her, a fun personal visit with her. Carol is asking, Kelly, have you considered doing a graphic novel? And she says, yes, indeed.
Yes, I'm thinking about it quite a lot lately.
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing that. Everybody, you need to go like Kelly's blog, or sign up on her blog. Do whatever it takes to get in Kelly's sphere. Like her on Facebook, or say hi to her on Facebook. Go buy her books and get on her fan list. And Kelly, I'll make a screenshot, or I'll capture all the comments that you're getting in the chat, but I won't take up your time to read all the comments now, but they're pouring in, as you can see. And we're going to end the broadcast. Guys, thanks for turning in all the great work for Kelly. I think you did us proud. And the replay will be up right away. And Kelly, thanks. This has been so much fun. I wish we could go for another 6 hours. We all do, but it wouldn't be nice to you. So we're going to stop the broadcast. Say goodnight. Kelly, stay on with me for just a second, but we'll stop the broadcast, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks on Wednesday after next. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.